And now I'm gonna go live.
Okay. Okay. Going. Chat going. Okay. We're live. We're live.
I'm
Okay.
live too.
All right. Yeah, I heard yours go off here. Tail end. Oh, they're doing sending me pictures and away they doing like a line dance kind of thing.
Um,
Well, good. He's having fun. First ever dance. Oh, I thought we. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. I'm in the. Okay. I don't have to rejoin the farm. Okay. Come on. Let's see. We got a. Where are we at? We're at.
we just finished raking,
Oh wait a minute.
and so we need to pick all that
Yeah, that's
up.
right. Okay. Hang on. I'm trying to get in the right tractor. Okay, there's mine. Because I knew I had like half a tank of gas, so I will have to.
Well, and I filled mine up.
Yeah, you filled yours. I didn't, but I was like, oh well, I'll be able to go. Probably about another round, maybe. Okay. Back up. I'm not looking at your chat, so I guess I could
That's
have
all
it
right.
have it on the monitor. So if casual or somebody hops in, you'll have to let me. This will be fun. As in, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, I figure if we don't get it done tonight, actually, probably next week we'll take a break from this map.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I got other maps I want to try, so I think we'll start doing kind of more of a. If we're doing grass on this map, we'll probably do more of a switching back and forth.
Well, actually, given we have 56,000, we could buy a few solar panels and then just go to sleep, and we'd have like $1 million
No,
from
I'm not
generation.
gonna do that.
I
I'm
know you
trying to get
didn't.
through
I
the
know you
next.
didn't watch
What
that video, but it's hilarious.
I haven't watched it yet.
Because
It's on my
because this
list.
guy isn't a farm sim or really a gamer per se, but it's just kind of like hilarious, the presentation and everything, and just some of the, I guess, kind of memeing. Oh, and I guess whatever map he did, and you'll see it in the thing, had an advertisement for a farm show. He's in Europe or whatever, Britain or, and had a farm show. Like they must have had an update, and they update the billboards in the game, or for the maps or whatever. And it was had the date, and it's like, oh look, it's this weekend, and he actually went to it and took some video and pictures, and then comes back to the game. So it's you know what? It's more the kind of the presentation. Because he's
Yeah.
like, oh, Farm Simulator is a very balanced game. It's like, and here I beat it without doing any farming whatsoever.
Well, I just on that 16x, I just got done selling $5 million worth of gold.
Yeah, but he started on hard mode, like where you start with nothing, like or whatever it is, the hardest mode, or
Uh-huh.
and then
I could do that, but
he
I don't.
well no he had at the end of the deal he had when he'd sleep he would make $8 billion. just from wind and solar generation.
Yeah.
But again, I gave away the punchline, but it's funny. It's I mean, I'm
Well,
sure
it's
I mean other people have done it obviously. He got the idea somehow, but he made it funny because like his audience wouldn't be farm sim, would be gamers maybe, but not farm simmers. So that's kind of the the uh the joke, I guess. Let's see. I need
yeah.
to dump in the double one. It's been so long, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That because the other one doesn't count.
The other one's green, or it's
Okay.
more like a green bin.
But okay. But yeah, but that spiffing Brit, he's like does kind of it's a little more of a I guess variety channel maybe I'd say. I mean, I don't know how to classify it. It's a comedy variety type of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done some like YouTube um commentary where like he found a glitch in how YouTube records like live stream views and stuff, and but then they obviously fixed it like after he figured it out, you know.
Yeah.
So like I said, this one, it popping up, like the thumbnail was like, oh, a farm sim deal, and it says beat the game without farming or something, and then I looked at the channel because I watch it. I mean, I don't watch every single video, but like I've heard of him. He's not an old school YouTuber, but you know, he started like maybe in 2015 or something and got big. Like he's got millions. And so I've seen other videos, and I was like, wait a minute, the Spiffing Brit, I've heard of him. He doesn't farm sim. So what could this be? So it was kind of like, what could this be about? You know, he's not
Yeah.
he doesn't make gaming content necessarily. Yes.
Yeah.
But his channel is somewhat about, you know, maybe breaking games or breaking um just kind of systems, you know, finding little exploits, uh but with a comedic bent, but I guess you could say. But yeah, he sell well, I mean, to get started, I mean, he essentially sells whatever they give you on the hard mode. And you know, because he does have to
They don't give you anything on the hard mode, really. The only thing you can do is contracts.
well, let's see, what does he start out? No, well, he doesn't do anything of that. Uh well,
But
well, you give you equipment, right?
nope,
Or
not
something,
unless it's
or
a not
buildings or
unless it's
something.
a mod. Not unless it's a mod map. If you're playing the regular, like a regular farm sim map, like the start base
Well,
game ones, you don't get any equipment or any buildings.
then how do you even begin, I guess?
Then you would have to start with contracts.
Well, but how you gonna do the contracts if you don't have equipment?
You can lease the
Oh,
equipment
lease it.
in the
Okay. Oh,
contract.
oh
So in
yeah.
other
Okay,
words,
that's
in
right.
other, in
That's what
other
he does.
words, in
That's what he
in other words,
does.
if you are supposed to get 20 grand, you only get like 17 or
Okay.
something like that.
Then all right. See, that's the thing. I already forgot. But okay, then that's what he does is he takes out a marginal loan for something.
Right. Oh yeah, you could do that too. Take out a loan.
Loan or something, and then to what does he do? Yeah, because he buys the only thing he buys, well, other than solar panels and wind turbines, and a shack to live in. Um, he hell, well, I guess you'll just have to watch the video because I'm missing the details because it's he buys a pedal a pedal car or the pedal car. I don't know. I haven't
There
seen.
is no unless he downloads one. There's no pedal car in the
Well, then
game.
he downloaded it, so it's a pedal car. It's an although when he goes to pick it up and get in it, it still says you have to start the engine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I get it, but I mean, pedal car. And then yeah, okay, he gets a loan to buy his first solar panel, and like, and I don't know what the house is about. Oh well, to sleep. I guess you got to have that to sleep.
Yeah.
So that's right.
Well, you don't actually have to have it, but it makes it more realistic if
But
you
anyway,
do.
that's right. He takes a loan to buy one solar panel, well, and maybe one piece of land, I guess too. So he's in the hole, but he realizes that you'll eventually get out of the hole even with one solar panel, as long as you do something. I don't know. Again, I'm missing the detail because obviously it works, but he starts with zero, nothing, and then buys this and then just sleeps a bunch until he's in the positive to buy more solar panels, and then he buys more land. Well, first he gets himself up to fills the cheapest, smallest portion, or cheapest, I don't know if it's the smallest, but cheapest plot of land, and fills it with solar panels, and then sleeps a bunch, and so then he could buy another piece of land and then start putting up those, and then putting up the wind generators, and then he eventually, the whole deal is then he eventually just, well, the game can't handle all the assets, so some of them start despawning, but he fills the entire map with either solar panels, I mean with the hills and everything, so the wind turbines are on the hills, and of course he had to do a little bit of terraforming, I guess, but he filled the entire map with solar panels and wind generators, and then like I said, his goal was to buy a mansion or the mansion, whatever. Maybe it was a download, and then a Lamborghini Aventador, and
Those are both Those are both mods.
okay. I mean, I think he used whatever. He does that, downloads those, and that's his goal. But then he finally gets it where the whole map is completely covered, where you can cover it, and every time he sleeps, he wakes up with $8 billion, and then and then he drives his car around, and then drives it up the hill, and then rolls it over. He says, and then he didn't know how to reset it, so he's like, "Oh, geez, do I have to buy another $2.5 million car to unflip it?" Basically, but yeah. Anyway, it was pretty fun. And I mean, again, it's edited up, so it's like a 20-minute video, maybe 18, something like that. It's less than 20. I forget the map. Oh, I guess the map, it's supposed to be a German map, yet one of the buildings he goes by has words on it or a sign, and it's in French. So yeah, that's right. It's a German map. So it's a regular, it's just a standard size, whatever you want to call it.
Someone probably they probably used a French building. I mean, that
Well, yeah,
happens.
I mean that doesn't really have
But
any matter to the.
they like the building and they put it there, and it just so happened they didn't know or didn't want to change
Yeah.
the text.
Well, I mean, he makes a joke about it because mentioned the British kind of feuded back in the day, So, but yeah, I couldn't tell you the pronunciation of the map, but it now that I remember, it's a German map. Now, see, when does shouldn't our money go up every time we dump?
No,
Okay.
not until we sell it.
Oh, okay. So you'll do that after the.
Well, no, because see what we're doing now is it's going into that bin and then it ferments in the silage,
Okay.
and we take the trucks and we
Oh,
sell
we
it.
have to physically take it to the. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I guess I thought it either you had it turned on where it skipped that part, or which is fine. Yeah, I want to. It's fun trucking it. It's not that far on this map.
No. I could turn it on so it does
Yeah,
that, but
no,
but
I want to
but
truck.
it only does it because I just tried to do that with the gold. It only does it in spurts. It doesn't. It won't like take all of it and sell it all at once. It
Oh,
just sells it throughout the day.
I see. It's supposed to snow here this weekend. I don't know how much, but weather's talking about it, and then the signs were like, be prepared, roads will be icy and stuff. But I don't think it's supposed to be anything huge.
It's been it's gotten up to the 60s, like
Well,
one day
that's the
last week
thing.
and
It
one
hadn't
day
been
this
that
week.
cold here. So.
Our our Kansas coworker today, because he knows that I'm not like I don't mind winter usually, but like when it's just cold and kind of in the way of going to work, I don't care
Yeah,
for it. And so it was like, oh, don't look at the weather today because it's supposed to snow. And I said, what are you talking about? It's not supposed to snow. He goes, well, it's supposed to snow down in Phillipsburg. And I'm like, that's an hour away.
yeah.
And he goes, well, you're close enough. It might just kind of creep up into here. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I looked at the our weather forecast, and it's like we only had a 6% chance. So
Yeah. Well, I'm I like winter, but I don't necessarily like it just when it's just cold. And if it's gonna be cold, I'd rather there be like snow on the ground because we've had these ups and downs and stuff. Like you had the 60-degree days. Well, that's kind of our deal. It gets get some snow and stuff, but then it melts off, and then it's it's like muddy in the backyard and just messy and stuff. And especially like the kids, they're just dying to play outside, and then either it's too cold or it's too muddy. I mean, they will go play in the mud, but they can't just go out for 10 minutes. Otherwise, they just get too muddy.
yeah,
And they want to snow, they would rather snow. I mean, that's the thing. Finally, that's the thing. We haven't had big snows to sled in. Well, we did the other weekend, so we did. And what's nice is like that hill's just like, it's can walk to it kind of deal.
oh,
There's some other hills around fairly close by, but one's a little longer. But that's the thing: longer the hill, the longer it is to hike the sled back up.
yeah.
Like we used back in the day, we used to go on the back side of the dam, which was awesome because you'd have a really long ride, but then you had a really long walk back up.
We had a. It depended on where I went because by the house at the second house that we had, there was a nice little hill to. It was a short, very short run, but it was a nice hill. And then um, if we could get over there, or if someone would take us over, we had a nice hill at the farm but we only did that a couple times.
Yeah. Well, and where our farm is, we don't. I mean, there is some bottom ground, but it's too far away from the house, so there was really no good sledding like right there. I mean, some of our fields and stuff where we had some pasture and stuff, there had been some good hills there, but we never loaded up to go there because you'd have to, bounce through the pasture and stuff just to get to the hill and risk getting stuck just trying to do it. So we always just most of the time went south of the dam, or over there by the school. Those dips and valleys.
Oh yeah,
those were
by
the old school.
stadium.
Yeah. Well, and those were nice short hills, and that's where build jumps and stuff. But they were steep, so you get going really fast, and then they were flat at the end.
Yeah.
That's the one thing back there in Nebraska. Sometimes it's almost just cold sometimes, and no.
Yep.
Or the wind's blowing.
They were when it got cold last month. Well, we had a snowstorm, and then it got cold, got below freezing or below zero actually, and um. So I didn't go because of the snowstorm, and then the next day I had to dig out, and by the time I got done digging out, I was just exhausted and didn't feel like going in. In fact, all I felt like doing was sleeping.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week we were supposed to get another snow, and it was also still bitter cold, and then the wind blew, and so it was drifted in a little bit, and then by the time I got dug out of there, then I was tired again, and I'm like I come back the next week. Well, my Kansas coworker was gone just as much as I was, and then the next week he was gone another 3 days because his vehicle broke down. Well, it started because we went home early because they had a snowstorm down there that we didn't have, and then and then his vehicle broke down, and so then they're like, geez, dude, like these new guys are taking off more time than someone that's been here 18 years, and I'm like, well, I'm like, I've always been trained by everywhere that I've worked that if you don't feel safe driving, don't do it. And the other thing is some of the salaries really stuck with me from Chief was we had the head of safety for the whole corporation there,
Yeah.
and he's like think of it this way, he's like the company, yeah, they may miss you if something happened to you, but they'll replace you.
Yeah.
And they're like, but your family, they can't replace you.
Yeah.
And then so, and then my boss, the other part of this all too is my boss at my last job was very very adamant about if it was snowy and stuff to stay home. So I'm like if I can, I'm like I'm not gonna bust my ass getting in on these. It didn't matter if it was a snowy day or not. If it was below zero, he would he would tell us not to come in because he's like, if you break down on the side of the road, you'd freeze to death.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not. If I can afford to and not come in and whatever, I'm like, I'm not going to. I'm like, I'm not gonna risk my life. This is.
Yep. Oh, hang
But
on.
they all.
They're home. Sounds like they're home. I'm gonna have to. Dump my grass. I'll move out of the way. Then I'll be back probably in
I'm
like
gonna go
10,
grab
10 minutes or something here. All right. I'm gonna keep streaming, but.
Oh, you're on.
Yep. Our old one. Yeah, this is what I'm with.
All right. Well, I'm still going. Okay. Oh, okay. I just noticed something. There we go. That should fix that. I'm sure if anybody was watching, they would have heard an echo. Get this last little bit here. I can get these little bits, or at least some of them. All right. Alrighty. Get these little bits around here.
Back into the
Okay,
game. Okay, yeah. All right, had a good time.
good.
Gotta click on the game. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess they played kind of all the kind of the classics, like that would have been at like our kind of skull dances.
No.
I mean, obviously not, P, rated G type of music for the most part, but they played things like the Katie said, like like the Casper slide and stuff like that.
I don't recognize that song or the name of it.
Well, you'd know it if you. It's kind of one that gets played at weddings and stuff too. Because I was like, well, okay, it's a bunch of one through first through like fifth, I guess. So it's like, all right, well, I gotta just do a bunch of whatever the pop music is today is, kind of thing. Taylor
Yeah.
Swift and all that. But no, it was like, like like Billie Jean and stuff. Michael Jackson. Like I said, some of the classic stuff. Probably a lot of wedding dance music, I suppose. Sounds like it
Yeah.
was. Sounds like it wasn't lame. Not that he would even know any different, but
Well, it sounds like they were probably maybe trying to play the music more for the mothers than,
well,
or
yeah,
well, I guess
yeah,
maybe the father. Well, did like the fathers take their daughters and the
yeah. It
mothers take
was.
their
I mean,
sons, or
like again, if Trip was old enough, could stay up this late, we would all just all went. So
uh,
yeah, I'd be either father daughter or
well,
mother
so
son deal.
so so it was kind of designed for the parents as far as
Well,
the music
yes,
was,
yes,
anyways.
yeah. First, the thing is, like with Tucker, he's probably heard some of the music they're playing because, I'll have it in the rotation in my, when we're doing something in the garage. I just like we were talking
Yeah,
about YouTube mixes and stuff. Um, I that's again, I do have kind of one. I mean, it's still YouTube curating, but it's one that like has very, you won't get any Eminem and stuff like that in there, or um, yeah, really risque stuff, I guess. So,
speaking of Eminem, you know what's funny, or it seems funny to me. So I originally started hearing them play it on KBPI, but
yes,
they're not
this
the
morning
only. But
even.
they're not the only rock station that's doing it. So iHeart is doing it across the nation.
Huh. You know what? It's funny you say that because they played it. I was just about pulling in the parking lot at work, so I was shutting it off. And I forget what tune, but he says, he's going to or not commercial, but a music break, and he's like, all right, Eminem up next, kind of thing. And I'm like, Eminem, I had to look because
Yeah,
occasionally, again, like we said, like we were talking before, I will when KBPI or the classic rock or talk radio, whatever is on commercial, I'll flip it over. There's kind of more of a, I guess you'd call it like classic hip hop station. Plays the old stuff we more or less grew up with, and I'll listen to a little bit of that, just during when they're playing because it's not an iHeart station, so it's on a different timing for commercials. So it is playing music when more than likely when iHeart is playing their commercial, it's playing some sort of music. So I flip over to it because only because it's playing music. And same with kind of a how do you want to call it? It's called Cool 105, but it's a little bit more like a Bob FM. So you'll hear 80s, 90s, well 70s, 80s, 90s pop music along with I guess your traditional classic rock, and then I guess you won't, you'll sometimes get some like Mariah Carey, but I rarely go to that station because again they're usually playing Jewel or something like that, and it's like I don't like any of that or never did. But
yeah,
I mean, I guess I can't say that I never tick away, but because it's like, well, I remember when some of those type of or Alanis Morissette or something. I mean, I remember those songs being popular. I didn't like them, but I guess I didn't hate them either. But anyway, I'll flip over to that station. Well, that's the kind of stuff. Usually, it's a little, I guess, safer. So I'll go there. But and that's some in my mix. But yeah, it's funny. KBPI. Yeah, I said, okay, Eminem up next, and I was like, Eminem, what station am I on? Because I thought I was, on KBPI, I was listening to the Willie B.
yeah.
But you're saying that because again, I don't listen to much radio outside of my drive in, and I don't listen to it on the app. So, um,
Yeah, they played it on the San Diego station the
okay, so
other
you're
day.
saying it's more of a high art across the nation now.
Yeah, and what's kind of crazy to me is like, yeah, like you said the first time I heard it, I was like, well, this is a rock station, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm like, this isn't exactly out of place either. I mean, it's not
No,
completely out of
well,
place.
no, I mean,
It is a little bit, but it isn't.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like, well, I think of, I mean, okay, Kid Rock is more rock, but he had that little bit of, mixed a little bit of the rap in there, so it wasn't, he's not heavy metal, definitely.
No, no, he
But
wasn't.
so again, that's the thing with some M&Ms. You're right. I know what you mean. Is it's it's got a little harder. It isn't all just uh beat beats necessarily, and it kind of fit.
Yeah,
It kind of
not the
fits.
one that they're playing.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's a nationwide deal, which I guess kind of makes sense.
Well, what it is, but at the same time, it has me a little concerned. It's like if they're willing to start doing this, like, where are they going with this?
Well, that's the thing. It's
Are
like
they?
iHeart already. I think iHeart some of the, and the only reason why I know of Bob FM is stuff because like when we're traveling, well, nowhere, we'll get North Platte. Well, that's I don't know if it's out of North Platte, but it's in that that band North South,
Yeah,
North Platte,
yeah.
Cook, whatever. I guess I'm thinking of the Hawk, um,
No, I know what you're talking
but
about.
yeah,
It's been a while since I've been that way and heard it, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah, but like I guess Bob is kind of that way because it'll have classic, it'll have harder stuff. I wouldn't say it have um uh metal per se, but of course it's going to play Metallica because they pretty
Yeah,
had mainstream appeal, I guess.
yeah.
you know, so you'll hear that next to Heart or Southern rock, non-traditional. I don't know all. So I wonder, I guess, if they're concerned that it's like okay, it's gonna turn not necessarily into like a Bob FM, but a Bob FM for rock, metal, uh, and maybe like I guess you'd call it like maybe crossover, where music that can cross genres.
Yeah.
Like for example,
Well,
yeah, for example, well, like Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots are being played on, um, the classic rock station. you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I don't consider, and I get it
You
from an
don't
age
consider it, but
standpoint,
chances, but
but
they are now they are considered
I,
rock. Classic rock.
well, yeah, because of age, but I guess classic rock to me has always been. I mean, there's a difference between classic rock and oldies like Elvis and I guess you'd say Beach Boys and they like the Turtles and I'm sing Jan and Dean because that was considered rock and roll, but in more of a modern sense, it's oldies, which is different than when uh Led Zeppelin came on the scene and well, Black Sabbath, I guess, Ozzy, that kind of rock started.
Yeah,
And then of course, AC/DC came a few years later, but still had the same sound, but it was more, um, well, and even like Beatles was that transition period because they had some hard stuff, and then they had their bubblegum stuff, and then their experimental stuff, and they were all over the place, as you could say. But there's like they're kind of like the dividing line in my mind, and then would do and then but like say um Dan and Dean, Buddy Holly, Beach Boys, Throw the Monkeys, um, and at That was a song, Surfer Dance. Whoever did that one, that surfing music, that I consider kind of more like oldies, and you kind of get over the Beatles, and Beatles was like more like rock and roll, and then you kind of get that, and then you kind of get the Led Zeppelin type stuff. It's hard as maybe true rock and roll or harder rock, hard rock, I guess. And then you get into the metals, and then I guess I never liked the term alternative. Like it's just rock with maybe more, or yeah, it's like a mix of rock, some harder guitars, but more metal. I don't know. And then you can start breaking them out, but to me, the delineating factor was kind of the production of it, because definitely like an Elvis type era of rock and roll has a definite different production feel than even Beatles. That wasn't too far after, and Beatles or like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, that early '70s rock definitely has a different production feel or sound than Beatles. And you get into the '80s, and that's maybe more later '80s, and that's kind of a different production sound yet. And of course, metal is its own thing, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to call pop rock. Again, there's so many subgenres. I'm lumping a lot of in together, but to me, it's more like classic rock is it's almost a specific production value, because if you think about some of the songs that are on classic rock stations, those were considered pop songs today, but that's what pop music was.
Yeah.
And we would not, but I don't consider Nirvana classic rock, and I don't consider it wasn't pop even in its
No.
heyday. Or like Stone Temple Pilots. Well, our Red Hot Chili Peppers gets played on classic rock, and then I was starting to hear again. We had our discussion about like Rob Zombie and that I guess you'd call it post-white zombie, but in his heyday, Rob Zombie, that band is starting to be played on it too, and it's like this just doesn't feel right. It's one thing
Yeah.
for
No,
KBPI to be like,
you know,
ooh, KBPI back in the day, and then play that because it is kind of back in the day now. But I don't know. I'm just wondering if if tastes are, I don't know, changing a little bit in those genres, so that's why they're kind of trying to pull in, because they know, like us who listen to, say, the Rob Zombies type bands on like the KBPI station, we also listen to some Eminem, and we also listen to some Dre and that stuff too. I'm going.
okay. Yeah, like I said, I have no clue where they're going with this.
I mean, that makes sense to me a little bit.
But then again, like you said, um, and I can remember it because that's one of the things that I don't like about the way things are now or have been for the last 30 years, 20 years, is it used to be in the 80s that didn't matter if it was rock or if it was pop or, it was all played on pretty much one station. And
Well, Hits 106, for example, because
yeah,
you'd hear
exactly.
you'd hear other than the syndicated show, the Friday Night Party Zone, or whatever. But when it was, yeah, I mean, they had their blue plate special, so that was your
Yeah.
oldies and all that junk. with Mark Reed. But then, yeah, they played the pop to popular rap to popular
That's
pop.
how I got into it. I mean, that's how I got into rock was, listening to stuff on there, and I'm like, maybe we're finally coming full circle, and maybe they're going back to that
Okay,
too.
I guess I've never
Maybe.
refilled a tractor. Where the hell, or how do you do it?
It's on the other side of the building.
Okay, it's
You're
not in
in
the
the
building.
shop. You need to go around the building.
Oh, I thought I went over there and I didn't see the little thing. I thought it was over
It's
here.
it's a pump on the side of the building.
Oh, I totally like just there it is. I thought it was had the little. There we go. I saw those markers, but I thought that was for. We're good. Guess I didn't need to unhook the trailer. I thought I had to go inside for something. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing you'd ever need inside is if you needed to do work on
Yeah,
the.
which only like 3.
But we also got a shop down here too, so.
Okay. But yeah, I kind of forgot. And of course, time I go back that way, have they? I forget who they were owned by, but Hits 106. Hits 106. What do they? um, did they cut their power? The transmit power, because I swear, driving around, down south, I get it. It's kind of like
Yeah,
KBPI out here in the city. It's in and out. Like I remember being able to flip it on, being in Orleans, being in Oxford, being in all them towns along the way, that we drive through, and being able to
yeah,
pick it up in, let's say, like Beaver City, or well, like around Beaver City or Cambridge even, and then hell, even when I'm driving up to you, getting closer, it doesn't come in very well.
yeah.
you know,
No, I don't. They might have, or maybe there's new regulations on the FM dial that they never really heard about.
and I notice 101 and a half and stuff is kind of that a little bit that way too. And
Yeah,
103, whatever 103 thing is, that was kind of
103.1.
yeah, that's kind of was a little after my time, but I do remember it. Uh, don't well, 103 comes in pretty good, but the it seemed like the other two main ones we listened to, all there was, don't come in.
Yeah.
Or don't come in worth a damn.
Well, when I used to mow down at my grandma's house, um, from there to Elma, I'd have to listen to the AM dial because I couldn't get any FM in.
Yeah. Which
And then it was crazy because the AM dial picks up. Like I was listening to sports from Chicago.
yeah.
It's like this is so messed up.
Well,
Because I'd be like listening to a hockey game from Chicago, and it's like, but you can't listen to anything local.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing though, when we travel, it's like we know, we can get stuff clear out to you know, you really start losing it, Fort Morgan Brush, on that trek,
Yep, yep.
and then and then you can pick up something else, on FM. AM travels farther, but but then when we're going 34, we can start picking up. I think it's out of McCook, but maybe it's north. I get them too mixed up, but like I think it's like the Hawk or something, but it's like 98.5 or something. We can pick that up in Colorado, drive and clear through, and get it clear to like Indianola or something like that. A good ways, like it, and it comes in good. And then it's like get near home, and good old Hits 106. Because that's the thing, come back there. It's like, oh, listen to Hits 106, see what they're playing, see how the DJ is, just nostalgia's sake. It's like can't even listen to it. It's just all fuzzy. It's in and out.
Yeah.
It's not even like you're going up and down hills there, that area.
Yeah.
Dang flat. I mean, it's only when you know, get to Holdridge or that, like we're gonna go to Kearney, then you can start getting it semi reliably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never knew where the transmitter was on it, but they must have at least or bought or switched towers or something. 'Cause it's terrible,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised because that you know that was the station. I mean, that was if you wanted hip music, it was that or of course that was before 101 and a half because that was a country station. I remember when that probably do too. Remember when that changed from country to classic rock and they did their
Oh,
101 minutes and then they do like 15 minutes of car commercials and then it was like an hour and a half of music, nothing but music and
I do and I don't. So I don't remember the countryside of it, but I do remember it being a big deal when they switched to the rock.
well, I only vaguely remember it as a country, but I have a vivid memory of all people. I don't know if you remember her. She was in the reason why is she's in my class, but uh, she's married now. But Leslie Tassell, I remember I don't remember what class, but in school, and she said, "Did you know 101.5? It's changing from a country station. It's gonna be a classic rock station." Like she was all excited, and I'm like, "Oh, really?" And I mean I was kind of like, "Oh, really?" And then it was like a couple weeks later, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember somebody talking about this," and it was her. But I flipped it on. It's like, "Yeah, classic rock. Oh yeah." Now I don't have to necessarily always have my CDs with me to hear
Yeah.
some of the music I wanted to. But before that, you wanted young people music. That's Hits 106. That's all it was. Because otherwise, the only other thing worth I don't even want to say was worth listening to. The only thing that came in worth a damn was, well, at least our radios were either tuned to that or KRVN, and most of the time it was KRVN because well the pickups had only AM radios.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess later, 1440 would play like oldies, and again that's where you get into the more like the Elvis stuff and Buddy Holly type rock, and or I guess you'd even say call a lot of the music you'd hear in like American Graffiti
Yeah.
on would be played on that AM station. Yeah, it was 1440. But yeah, uh, only well, and it's kind of funny is dad growing up back there farming, like he bought a Fender mounted radio on a tractor like what we're driving here, and it's top. We took it off the tractor because it kind of got away. But when that was the main farming tractor, was uh he bought that, put that on there, and it did have FM, and even then FM was still new. But what station he said it was, but some station that was normally I don't even know if you want to call it country, but just hmm, uh not gospel, but like Lawrence Welk music. I guess that's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
Not even rock, not even oldies. It was like Lawrence Welk stuff, like kind of classical or Frank Sinatra stuff. Okay, I guess that's kind of back the night, kind of thing. But he said that between 4 and 6, broke to national was teen time, and that's when they'd play like Beatles or something like that. Middle 60s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got 2 hours of young people music. Otherwise, it was basically like Lawrence Welk kind of stuff, like Hank Williams.
Yeah.
He wasn't ever in the country because that's the thing. I have his 8-track and record collection stuff, and there's no country in there. It's almost all like Beatles era stuff, like, and then again, well, classic rock, but Led Zeppelin, Boston, that stuff, and even my mom's stuff was more rock. I mean, she does have some like you wouldn't know it, but Buffy Saint Marie, kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Firefall. I guess it's like what you'd call pop music.
Hope you got a. Did you see your YouTube?
Oh, hey, yeah. I had just looked up. We got 5 people in there. Hey, the damn. Oh, from India. Okay, so you're watching in India. So it must be. It's late at night here. It must be daytime there. Welcome, watching. Feel free to do the super chat if you like what you're seeing or hearing. If you're watching from India, we're talking about radio stations and music, and I guess that's totally a world away from us here in the United States of America. What kind of rate morning? Okay, well, that's daytime to me. What kind of radio, I guess, is available wherever you are? I'm gonna assume just because it's such a huge city, New Delhi, but I guess you could be somewhere else. One of the only cities I can think of off the top of my head without. But anyhow, yeah. So, but even thinking about our generation, a bit of limited access to good music or current music as far as that. Hits 106 was it. That's the thing, and come visit my. Okay, Mumbai. Okay, yeah. Like I said, if I thought harder, I could have probably. Good deal. What kind of radio stations you got there, and what kind of music do they play? But yeah, I'd come out here and visit my cousins and stuff, and I'm like, first the old radios had to necessarily have the scan function. So you're sitting there turning the knob, and and God, every little turn of the half turn of the dial, you'd get a station out here. All kinds of stuff. I was like, oh wow, but like my cousins were like super used to it, so like they had, depending on what car we were in, this is before they were driving, but if it was like their parents' car or whatever, grandma's car, they had them tuned to the stations they liked, but they'd sit there and hit the keys, the auto presets, just be punching around. They didn't like, and I'm like, hey, this is music I've never even heard. I don't care if it's not a great song or whatever. Like, for example, that was in the era when like Paula Abdul was, for pop music. So, like, I remember hearing that song on the radio for the first time on God knows what station. Then when it was over, they went to something else, and they're like, oh, flip it, change the station. They punching around the dial. I'm like, I don't care. I've never heard anything but,
I was just gonna say that because like I remember growing up, like you listen to Hits 106 and be like, this is the new current stuff. Well, then you ever go to a bigger city, and it was like their music was, well, it was their music was always 2 weeks ahead of ours.
Oh,
so like
well,
whatever
I always said this.
Ours was always 2 weeks behind, or
Well,
like
I always said this growing up. It's like when we come out here, and I feel fortunate I got to do what I got to do, and seeing the city, parks, all that stuff. But it always felt like go to the malls stuff and whatnot. And there was many malls one time, but it always felt, and yeah, the music was a big part of it. It always felt like we were almost 10 years behind. Like going back in time,
yeah,
like
yep,
we were 10 years behind somewhere.
yep.
But okay, so
I
radios are just
totally
ads.
agree.
So is there no music radio in where you're at? Hack Hackcuber, how you say your username there? I'm a little curious. I don't know what radio is like. Other how they run radio stations in other countries, because here, and I don't know, just gonna be ignorant here, but I assume India's like radio and TV is a lot state, mostly state sponsored. Like here, stuff like that is media, like radio is private companies, like for profit. Like there's a lot of competition. Bollywood songs running. I'm not into Bollywood, but I know what it is, and it's not for me, but it is intriguing. Just I guess because it's so unique, I guess. But it's not a thing I'm necessarily into, but something I probably could get into. And I kind of have an idea what you mean, but is there over there in India? Is there like, oh, it's not cool anymore? I guess it's cool here, sort of. Well, it's very niche, I guess. But is there like rock and roll or hard rock, heavy metal? You know what those terms mean there? I just don't even know. Forgive my ignorance if I guess I'm an ignorant American, somewhat, somewhat. Um, we,
Well, so going back to the we were behind on stuff. Uh, I think I kind of told this story before, but we went to what was it, New Kids on the Block in
yeah,
Tiffany, because I grew up like in Tiffany
yeah.
when I was young, when I was
Oh,
five,
I
six,
remember
whatever.
her. I mean, again, I didn't, I wasn't a
Well,
fan, but it
we
was, it's kind of like, yeah, like New Kids on the Block. I remember when they were big, and I
well,
well,
so
I had a
so
cassette
here's
tape.
the deal. So here's the deal. We go because I like Tiffany and wanted to. My parents are like, oh well, she's coming to the state fair, so let's go to the state fair and get the concert tickets and whatnot. So we will go. Well, she opened, and at that time I didn't know what an opener was or anything,
Yeah.
but she opened and she was opening for New Kids on the Block, and
Well, that would have been a pretty
so
big deal that back
we
then.
well, it was, and but the thing was, like Kids 106 hadn't been playing their music, so we had no clue who they were. We're like
Who's New Kids on the
who is
Block?
this? Who's New Kids on the Block? And then the other thing I remember was everybody starts screaming when they come out, and I'm like, why is everybody screaming? I don't understand. And then it was literally a month later before I finally heard Hits 106 play him on the radio.
Yep. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I had, and now that you say New Kids on the Block, oh hey, uh, Hack Huber, okay, yeah, you have everything. Well, I figure now, especially with the internet, um, there's less. less of, what am I trying to say? Not ignorance, but less, or there's more knowledge of other things. I guess I kind of get it, but I'm sure there's maybe less developed parts of the world that may not know. But yeah, I figured as much. Probably do that. So I mean, are there American bands, or well, American, British, European, I guess, bands that are popular over there? I'm just curious. You know, me and Skull Crusher here, who's on the other line, are kind of more uh, rock and metal kind of fans. You're more metal than I am, but I do like some of it. Just curious as if it's a, if that kind of thing's sort of reached over there, or if it's very niche. But yeah, you know how I find, I probably found out about New Kids on the Block. I visited my cousins out here and probably saw them on MTV or something like that, or they had the cassette tape or whatever, and then somehow I ended up with one. It could have been Jody Bob, whatever. I listened.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, I could understand that because Brooke got, you know, Brooke heard him in concert, and then she was all about him.
yeah, and that's the thing. Jody wasn't really all about him that I remember. But again, you know, like I had Vanilla Ice's set and uh other, thank gosh, I think other stuff. Yeah, more pop stuff that I did listen to where I kind of went back, I guess, got back to the roots or found my footing, more the sort of classic rock, because before there was good radio, like when we were little and such, and taking care of us, earliest memories music is, I have them, the records and 8 tracks, and I remember what age I was, but when I got old enough, they let me play 8 tracks. A record, a kid could scratch, but an eight
Yeah.
track, you pop it in. I like being able to hit the button to switch the tracks, and after I figured out how to, oh, when it's at this point in this song, if I hit it here, it's the beginning of the song I actually want to listen to, you know. I remember that, and I remember listening to a lot of Beatles. Abbey Road, I wore that, well, and it broke. I wore that one out. I mean, it was already well worn from Dad, but I finished it off, I guess. I mean, the label was so like crinkled because it either got moisture or probably from sitting in the dash, Carmagia,
Yeah.
back in the day. um, but it 8 track eventually ate it. That, and then again, that is the Led Zeppelin 4 8 track uh is how I got introduced to Led Zeppelin. And then it was funny because when I first got to see Fast Times at Ridgemont High, of course, well after it, I forget when that movie come out, but you know, I wasn't old. But and I saw it for the first time, and I was like, comes to making out, uh track 4, or say track 3 or something of Led Zeppelin 4. I forget the exact line, but I'm like, wait, I know that. And then of course the scene changes, and they're in the car going to dinner, and it's playing Kashmir. I think it's Kashmir. uh, I think, and I might be mixing this, but anyway. But when he said that, it's like, because they were playing an 8 track, because that was the whole deal, is like they make a comment of like, "Oh, this is a really nice tape player," or something like that. You know, like driving his sister. The scene is he's driving his sister's. But then when they get out of the restaurant, it got broken into, and the the 8-track player got stolen because it's like kind of the date didn't go well. He forgot his wallet and awkward.
Yeah.
You know the whole. You know it's a coming of age thing.
Yeah.
That's a distinct memory because again I was listening to that 8-track before I knew that movie existed, and then all of a sudden I see it for the first time, probably on TV, so it was edited. They said that, and I'm like, oh, they're talking about this, and 8-tracks were already, you know, nobody had 8-tracks at that time. This would have been the late '80s or early '90s, actually, early '90s. Saw it for the past time.
Yeah.
So again, CDs were just getting the scene common, but they were common for people like you and me to have. Like early '90s, when Mom bought a like kind of a boombox that had dual tape decks for dubbing and CD. I think we've gone over this, but for CD, I have a copy of Beatles' Rubber Soul. At the time, that was one of my favorite records. Well, actually, my
Yeah.
favorite was was White Album, but either it wasn't on CD yet, or because it was. I have it now. I think it's like a 4-disc set because that was a 2-disc record. Yeah, so I think it was a 4-disc CD to get everything on there. It was CD was $20. This was like 40.
Yeah.
I mean, I eventually bought it later when price. So again, recently, but yeah, some of those burned ones are getting pretty old, scratched up because slid around.
Yeah.
Well, and even my store bought one. Some of them are really where just go.
Yeah.
And then in and out of those all had.
Yeah.
I mean I've seen the meme, but I do it to this day. But it's like second nature. Pull it, flipping it open in the passenger seat and pulling out a CD while you're going down the road and all that. But I've seen the memes where it's like texting and driving. Nah, we had this. you know, you're trying to look up, look down, as find an empty slot, or whatever. Yeah.
That's what Burke was for.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. When, yeah,
The only time that wouldn't work was when I was in sports, and so I would drive myself home or whatever after.
yeah.
But I would just put a CD in, and then before I left, usually before I left, I didn't really change them on the road.
Well, I did, especially like when we're going to you know cruise Central, go to Kearney and stuff. You had 2 hours of driving on either end, and didn't always just listen to a CD all the way through.
Yeah.
Listen to the few songs you want, then you out. But again, usually with cruising stuff, I usually had someone like, well, not you, but Bonnie or Eric or Jeff or combination, and yeah. But they'd have their CDs too, so we'd or like when we're out mudding and stuff, mighty Nissan. Yeah, I'd be the one uh, changing it. And we listened to a lot of that I can distinctly remember. A lot of Bloodhound Gang and Ramstein. and, while we were out, mudding or whatever. I don't. It
Yeah.
was usually Ramstein, but then sometimes it'd be Bloodhound Gang. And when if LJ got to go out, then we'd take his deal and he had them subs in that band pass box. So, and we were listening to the bass mechanic CD,
Oh.
which it's kind of, I don't know, it's just bass music. It's not even like rap, but it's kind of like dance
Yeah.
music, but not really dance music either. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in between. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's just like somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Well, and then like some of those tones, some of the tracks are literally just test tone. So sometimes we'd just be listening through all the frequencies. So I'd just sit there for 30 seconds, be going, and then each to test your subs or whatever,
Yeah.
meters and mid range. Like that kind of stuff's like so obsolete because now you're gonna do that. It's like an MP.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are always listening to heavy bass stuff, and mine was somewhere in between. I had some decent subs, but like he spent the money, he had the amp. I don't know, he had like 15 or something. I think some 18 subs and a band pass box. But then he didn't really have good other speakers, and I had 15s running on like, I say 500 or 600 watts. But then I had six, kind of a 6 channel setup. So I had like the 6x9s in the deck, 6.5s with 2 ways in the front and like the kick panels, and then I had some tweeters on the A pillar. And then I had an equalizer too. So I had a pretty. That's the thing. My car, I always felt had a pretty good, well-rounded sound. It could hit the lows, and hit the highs, and it just sounded good. Where LJ's was pretty much just, it was pretty much just bass,
Yeah.
all for bass. And then Derek, I know, had 10-inch pickup, and then and stuff was all cobbled together. You know, we did. It was better than having nothing. When
Yeah.
that's the one thing I wonder, just the way cars are these days. I look at, like my vehicles, which are old, but they're in the late 2000s, 2010s, and it's like, oh, is car, and especially now with the new stuff, and cars are coming with better audio systems just right from the factory. But and I know they still sell stuff, competition stuff, but just average people, I wonder if car audio been really much of a thing as it was when we. I bet you it
Yeah.
isn't. I
I
bet
don't
you it
know.
isn't because if you just want to listen to music good, the stock stuff is pretty good these days. Where back in
Yeah.
our day, you know, like think about, of course, my car factory radio was, was a mono channel AM radio. Um, so I had to add, you know, add speakers, add a radio with that even had FM. even get FM radio. But
Yeah.
you know, like I think of like your Somerset or whatever. You know, yeah, it had FM and 4 speakers, but they were paper speakers and pieces of garbage even when they were new. You know.
Yeah. No, my dad and I upgraded the Somerset.
Yeah. Well, most, even if you just put in some
Yeah,
cheap JC Whitneys,
I,
were better than what the stock had.
yeah, him and I think they gave it to me for a Christmas present, if I remember right. We went through and, or it was either that or we got it on like a Black Friday. Um, and then him and I went through and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, so he had to do most of it and explain it to me. But um,
But I'm even thinking like your Ranger, you know, probably, you know, even the stock setup was not good, you know.
no, it wasn't. And then I spent a bunch of money on the Ranger as far as like the stereo went. I mean, I spent a bunch of money on the Ranger anyways, but um, I spent a bunch of money on the stereo in it. I probably had $500 in stereo equipment in it,
Yeah, and that was kind
which
of for
probably
an
doesn't
average
sound a
person was
lot.
kind of a lot.
Probably doesn't sound a lot, but probably doesn't sound a lot. But if you think about it, back then, that was quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna estimate because I don't exactly remember the prices, but like the my Valiant, the head unit I put in, I didn't put it in dash. I made a center, but you know, it was I remember it was a Blaupunkt, and it had. I remember it had already. Of course, none of the radio stations transmitted it back there, but I remember when I came to Denver, it worked. It had RDS in it, which I thought was neat. Song stuff and song in that. Of course, it didn't work home. None of the radio stations
Yeah.
supported it, but and had some other things. But you know, I had a good internal amp. But I remember it was oh, it was I want to say it was like $180, which then and the 6x9s. Yeah, they were Infinities, Infinity Kappas. They had a green polycarbonate woofer, and then freeways 6x9. Those were those were something dollars a pair, which was not the highest you could spend, but like JC Whitney was selling, you know, regular old upgrade your paper one. They're pure, I think, Pyramid brand for like 20
Uh-huh.
bucks for a pair or something, you know. JC Whitney. So they were pretty high end. That my 6.5s were, remember the brand, but they were relatively cheap. They were a known brand, but they might have been like, well, that's a brand, but they were JL wasn't really those speakers. I think they were JL audios. Tweeters were something cheap. Tweeters were something cheap, like out of Whitney. They were in. They were like $10 a pair. That, and then that like head unit was like $180. Amp was almost as much as the head unit on subs, but the subs I got on clearance out here at Quality Auto Sound, which is a chain out here, which might be, but they were $35 down from, and they Serwin Vegas weren't Rockford. No, they weren't MTXs. They were a known. But and then I built custom boxes that either side, so I could still get my spare tire out and still had all the most of the trunk space. But yeah, thinking about it, yeah, I had at the end of the day, 600-700. I feel like the head unit might have been on. Yeah, I remember used to get Crutchfield catalogs in the mail. Like, I don't think they were quarterly, but they might have been like bi-yearly, and daydream looking at them. And actually, that's where I bought my head unit, Blaupunkt, out of there. Now, in my Fiero, which is a Sony unit, I bought that at I think it was Midwest. Is that what was kind of in Grand Island, Hastings, Kearney, Midwest Audio?
Yeah.
Midwest.
Well,
okay.
one of them.
Yeah, that's where
it was Midwest, and then the other one was Video Kingdom.
Yeah, I never bought anything there, but I do remember buying the sub that was in the Fiero in Hastings. Yeah, in Hastings like Midwest Audio. Derek was along when I bought them. You could have been along. Now that I think about it. I remember I bought it there. We went back to his house and I bought it and I know that was a JL MTX. Forget the power, but I bought the head unit first, and I know I bought that in, and it wasn't their highest end model, kind of their mid. But I liked it because it had a red.
Yeah.
And other than my Ford pickup, that had been the last head unit, and that head unit I bought at Walmart. It was ILO brand, and it was, well, I didn't want anything too fancy in that thing. I figured to get broken in.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, well, it sounded all right, but the volume knob quit working after about 2 years or something. It just crappy. But it was only like, I believe it was like $80 I bought it. I didn't want anything too fancy, but wanted a radio, and I put a sub and an amp in there. I have that. It's in my garage. I have hooked up on to my computer. Well, yeah, I have it in the garage, and I can turn it on and a pipe.
Yeah.
I want. It kind of shakes things off the shelf, though. Usually turn it on, and you can hear it in the house. Which makes me think, of course, Derek won't get, this doesn't work for him time-wise. I remember, do you remember at the trailer house having a car battery on the floor, running the amp, and run through the stack there?
No.
Oh, okay. We did that once or twice. Took the stubs out of his, and whatever it was. That was when Becky was. Of course, at the time didn't have a battery tender, just a battery charger, so you put it on the lowest charge, 10 amps, and turn that on, and then hook it up, and of course that's why the cops got always called on him. Because of course you could hear it out, just clear as a bell outside those paper thin walls.
Well, yeah.
And then of course
being in a trailer house.
Well, yeah, and it's like 1 a.m. too.
Or that too.
You wouldn't remember this, but when I was would have been more like in junior high, I had the move the I was really into listening. Moved our turntable and into my. I got to move the turntable and stuff and speakers in the bedroom. Well, I remember going to farm, just buying up speakers, in box like house speakers,
Uh
and
huh.
then just wiring them in parallel off of each other or off the back, and then I got like a home amp. Derek kind of did this too, but I remember at one time I had like 10 speakers, like a wall of them. I mean, they were all just crummy, for the most part, crummy, garage sale kind of speakers. But they were old from like the 60s and 70s. They were like in wooden boxes, look kind of fancy, but they were not anything. Yeah, I had like 10 speaker output or stereo, for off of the record player slash radio slash that had the 8-track too.
Yeah.
I remember seven times when like parents weren't home. Jody was I was home alone essentially. I would just crank it up and then go and see if I could hear it outside. And a lot of times I could, but it was yeah. And like sometimes at night, I had my lava lamp. Eventually my strobe light, and mostly I just have the lava like lava lamp, kind of like psychedelic.
Yeah.
But then I'd be listening to like Peter Frampton or Alice Cooper or something like that.
Yeah.
This was before. This is definitely before.
I never got to take the stereo to my room. I just let's see. Well, my grandpa got a ghetto blaster so he could listen to stuff, the radio or CDs or whatever. And then I wanted one, so um
Well, actually, in my room when I got older, like that, um, we put that in there. Of course, then we got into the CD radio, which we always had them, but then I I ran the antenna wire from the 18-foot antenna on the roof, um, into my room through the window. So I had my CB in there, had the scanner, had my, I had my, like I had just kind of like this electronics corner, I guess you could say.
yeah.
Um, Communications, because yeah, I had the CB there. I had a base station. I had like a mic, kind of like, sort of like the fleet you see in an old movie station with the button. Of
Yeah.
course, I had my TV and my Atari and that stuff. A lot of times I'd be watching TV or something, and Derek and that's the thing. Me and Derek could just, because he had an 18-foot antenna on when he lived over there, um, just west of Orleans,
Uh-huh.
and he had his 18-foot antenna up top of that house, and we could just hear each other. Then you had Sean in the middle, Alma there, uh, and he just had an antenna just sitting in his room. Well, I think he mounted it outside his window, but he didn't have it like on the house. But
Uh-huh.
because he was midway through, like if we couldn't, if the weather wasn't right, so me and Derek could talk normally, because sometimes that happened. He was the relay in the middle, because he could hear each of us just fine, because he was about halfway between each of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be listening to my Right. Well, that's the other thing is I'd like lock the button down and put it in front of the speaker and broadcast, which like technically you're not supposed to do, FCC whatever. But then I got an amplifier, so of course it doesn't help receiving, but the amplifier would send. Then the send, I had uh, like talked to Carney, and then when I
Oh,
had it in the car, having send there, then at least to my car to home, I talk back and forth to Carney 60 miles. You had to turn the amplifier, but in doing that, I found out that like some of the neighbors that were like a couple blocks away, they were like
uh,
hearing. Well, they couldn't like hear me talk, but they would hear things like 10-4 and all that through their TV. Because me and Derek, we would use all that CB lingo and stuff. Like when it had to go to the bathroom, it's like I gotta go 10, I gotta go 10-100, you know.
yeah,
But well, they're still back there, but still have those radios. I don't know what I when I did eventually move out here and had a house, I thought about, but it's like, well, nobody. I mean, not nobody used them, but it's like, well, I'd be listening to, because that was kind of the fun part is being on 136. There was some of the truck traffic stuff, and there was some local guys we'd talk to, made runs back,
yeah,
and then at night it was just fun to listen because you could hear uh people talking, like hundreds of miles, because it would skip off of the ionosphere. You could hear somebody in like Alabama, Alabama. They couldn't,
huh,
you couldn't talk back to them, but you would hear them. Well, they would probably hear us, but it was I mean, that's why you can get it's same deal because it was on similar frequency or as like AM radio, and that's why you could get. I remember again before FM radio, sometimes we'd listen to KOMA, which was out of Oklahoma, and they played a little bit more modern music, but it was like really like late night stuff. Like had one of those crystal radio kits, like
yeah,
kit thing, and you could hear radio station only at night. It would pick up those kind of radio stations
yeah,
far away. But same deal with C. Yeah, thing when John and Derek and Jeff got in on. Then we got handheld CBs. We had belt clips, so we had them all. Of course, and then see that's when I carry it in the tractor. So during the day, like if Jeff was going to be able to get away or get off work at Chowks or whatever, radio to me at Methodist fishing.
yeah,
Same with Sean. Happened to be drive over there. Three of us. Days before cell phone. I don't even want to say that was like our cell phone, but it was just at least some way we could kind of communicate without calling, not near a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is we used to, not like most nights, me and Sean and Derek could just sit there and rather than calling on the phone, we'd talk over. Well, and then eventually Chris Benton got a kind of joint. Then Brad got one. Then we kind of had to do some secret codes to switch channels every once in a while. Didn't want him.
Yeah.
Well, mostly it wasn't like we were talking trash or anything, but it was like just we didn't like him because he tried to jump in the conversation. We're like shut up, Brad. so, so I forget our code, but we'd have a thing like you know, like something like we'd say like, oh, I gotta take a couple. We'd say like a couple steps into the basement and go down 2 channels from. But
Yeah.
but then I remember, see, I had a sideband radio which had CB, but then it upper and lower, so it was like the upper portion of the frequency and lower, and then I remember Sean got one, and Derek never had, so I could only ever talk to Sean. But I'd say let's switch. When we knew he was on, he was like trying to just interrupt our conversation. I'd say Sean, let's go to lower sideband. So I'll have to do is flip the switch, then kind of say got a copy, and you'd have to talk a little bit because you'd have to sort of fine tune it. But then he could still hear that we were talking, but because he just had a normal CB, or he was like it was like on channel 13 or something. But on sideband, it would just be a couple points on the frequency lower or higher, so he could hear the
Uh,
talking, but it was just garble, so couldn't make out what we were saying. And if he tried to transmit, we didn't hear it because we wouldn't pick up that frequency. But a regular channel 13, you could hear the upper and lower, but on sideband you couldn't hear the regular channel, so you'd have to know. So that was our really wanted to be private. That's what we do because we knew pretty much no tune in. They called the sideband.
yeah.
But again, it was just me and him who had one. I had one in my car, I had one at
Oh.
home. So like, oh, and see, sideband also was allowed more power to talk power, so it went farther. The other thing, of course, Joe always had a CB, but Stanford was just too far. I mean, Derek could talk to Joe, but I couldn't. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
well, if we all wanted to converse, Derek had to be a relay for Joe, and same with Sean. Couldn't hard he could pick him up better, but just barely. I couldn't. I was just too far on the other side.
Yeah.
But it was kind of nice when we're hunting. Hey, we could keep track, like coyote hunting or whatever. But also because Amor lived over by the farm, I just there and drive by his house and be like, oh, he's home, so let's go out.
Yeah.
He's not gonna get us this time.
Yeah. I was just talking about that at work,
Well,
or I
then
think,
then
yeah, I
see
think it was
later I
at
got a
work. It was
scanner
like,
and I had his frequency programmed in, and I had it so every 5 seconds it flip over to that frequency to check and see if he was talking. So you could sometimes I'd just be a relay. That was another thing. Is like even if I wasn't out hunting with him, I'd be listening to game ward. I heard him talking, hey, saying something out, like if he was like saying his position.
Yeah.
Same with the before they scrambled it, cops, and that was always fun on holidays, especially the weekends, getting all the out of towners, speeders, and of course DUIs and all. But I remember
Yeah.
hearing certain people getting mipped. Remember when? I don't remember exactly, but it might have been.
Yeah.
I caught it.
I remember, I think one night they got caught. We were actually camping like a few miles away, and I think it was them and Stevens, and because that's around where they were. They were over by Stanford,
Okay.
and
Well, I remember like more my class getting caught because they just go over to like Fisherman's Gate, and it's like especially if you had a fire going, you can sometimes see that from the highway depending on night and stuff. And we never did a lot of that, but if we were gonna mess around, we went way out in the boondocks, away from
yeah,
town.
well, that's same with
Yeah.
Schreiner and I, or Joe, and
Well, and we went
if he
on our
was with
own
us,
land,
or
and we're doing it on our own land, and like we had bottom ground where you could go down in there, and you couldn't be seen unless you were like spotlighting or something. You wouldn't know anyways down there.
yeah,
Some places.
yep,
I mean, we went and camped, obviously, in some of those other places, but we didn't do anything against the law. If we're going to be at such a what I consider a kind of a well-known public place.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't city and country. Well, that's the
Well,
other thing.
the other part of it too is like I think the city kids, that's like they don't know where to go, or they don't have the places to go.
No, they
You know,
don't.
like
I guess that's the thing. But yeah, that probably was more it. But also the thing too is though is like for all those ones time kind of were like the big shots or whatever. They all had like curfews and stuff, and so they couldn't go too far away because it's like well, had to be home by whatever time. And like I don't know about you, but like Eric, I mean, really didn't have curfews. It was pretty much
I didn't, but that was because I was kind of known as being like a good kid, so they didn't like
well, that's the
they
same thing.
actually
And I didn't. And that's the thing. A lot of times I just you got tired, so I didn't necessarily want to come home, but didn't
yeah
necessarily have to be home either.
yeah no they they were they never really they maybe in they maybe when I first started driving set one, but after a while, I was like, nah, just whatever. That's like when we went cruising up here in Holdridge, like uh, we'd be until like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't ever remember there being a curfew
Yeah.
per se. Maybe very occasionally, like only because we'd have to get up for some reason. But
Well, that was always the thing. It was kind of like, got to get up in the morning, so be home, so you can sleep. Kind of like, yes, yeah. I mean, just trust, but and got in trouble.
yeah,
Partly why, but but we went to. I say we. A lot of times it was Eric, but we cruised Alma just a little bit at the beginning, beginning of the night. It's like, this is boring. Let's go. If we were in my car, usually it's like Derek's. It's like sometimes we just go out four wheeling, just burn gas. But if we're in my car, drive around a bit and maybe do a round around the campgrounds and stuff. It was and but but then after that, it was like, oh, this is boring, and that's like, let's go to Kearney. So usually usually cut over to Huntley and go Megan, and that way little faster. If we were starting from my house, we'd take the Axtell Road. That was way faster else, but um, we'd hightail it to Kearney, and we go again like Central and that kind of stuff. Go park in the parking lot, hang out,
yeah,
and we'd stay out and till the crowd kind of dried up, and that was usually around midnight or something. And it's like, okay, well, we still had about an hour's drive home, so we're most of the time we're always getting home at 1 o'clock or slightly after. And then especially when we like the teen nights at Bets or Free or whatever, that ended at, I think, 12:30. I forget when it started, but yeah, it was like 12:30. So we'd, we'd close up shop there, so we weren't leaving there. And that's usually when we had to take the Highway 30 over Elm Creek and down, as you, or well, we can't, not clear to Elm Creek. What I'm talking, Odessa. We take the Odessa down, but we weren't leaving till 12:30, and again, it was still about an hour's drive. And that's the thing. I never really thought about till much later, but I guess that's probably why I didn't see too many, hardly ever any Alma people there. Any people other than the people came with,
yeah,
or like again later when everybody was dating Brad and stuff, him and his friends would meet us there from Brand, or I,
yeah,
I knew some regulars there. The only time I remember some Alma people that I distinctly remember was, I remember Aaron Olson, and because he was dating Chris Clark, and they were there one night. That 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 and maybe be a couple out of your class and just above my class. Once, I think one time, I think that was during the winter. But it's funny, they didn't. If I remember right, they didn't get out onto the dance floor. Like, stood around.
oh,
I forget. I don't remember who. Like, Aaron and Krishna, of course, answers. Yeah, it was funny. I got to know. Well, there was not always a lot of Kearney kids. There was a lot of Elm Creek, Odessa, Benna. What's up north there? Hazard, Glendale, or Glenwood.
Pleasanton.
Yeah, Pleasanton. That's what I'm trying to think of. That way north. Yeah, Holdridge. Still, there wasn't ever always a lot of Carney kids. Because it was, as I remember, for a while there, it was kind of the only bar that would, because it was Wednesday nights during the summer. Actually, less so. They have the college, whatever, a slow way for them to make a living.
Yeah.
I remember it was kind of the only one that had a kind of like night or underage, I guess you could say, night. Then later,
Yeah.
it seemed like some of the other bars had that. Started doing that probably because I do remember, especially those first year. I remember going to it, and I don't know if it'd been going longer than that, but that's the thing. It almost never made it till 12:30 before they shut it down because they would be over the capacity and the fire marshal kick everybody out. Because I mean, it was just sometimes it was just butt to gut. You couldn't hardly move. Like they had these pool tables over there, and sometimes kids would be playing those. But I mean, it was even so you couldn't play. It was even just so packed that they couldn't play pool because there was too many people. I forget what the capacity was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, they only serve like sodas and water, and I can remember just because you're trying to move through the crowd, getting stuff dumped on you because you accidentally bumped into somebody. Like it was like it was a different when we when college and that was more college night. This was just think a bunch of high school kids with no supervision, I guess.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a
Oh,
$5 cover charge.
the dog wants out.
Okay,
Hold on just a second.
making a decent dent in this grass here. We made a decent dent in this grass.
Yeah.
About ready to split, but
I wondered if it wasn't going to be about that time of night.
yeah, I mean, again, I could stay up later, but I don't know. I'm looking at my stream clock. We're at 2 hours 12 minutes. Long enough.
I just started picking up a line, so I'm gonna finish it and dump it, and then I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm filling this half full. It's snowing here. So I don't know how much we're gonna get. Planning on going rental. I got holidays and things got in the way. Putting the floor down, and I just get part of that finished to then on to the next step.
Yeah.
And I can get her listed. Wanted to have it listed. A little more. Things go. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Ronnie Gold. We're just about ready to pack it up. So, actually, bad you weren't in. Had a couple other people in here though. But, yep.
How's it going?
I've caught a few of your streams. I haven't been because of what I've been doing. Because what I was doing, I wasn't able to get in the chat, but I have put your stream on the background just so getting a view, getting a little bit of watch time. We gotta help each other out on that. That's what YouTube wants, is that watch time.
Good.
Yeah, you kind of missed some conversation. We were kind of talking about, won't rehash it, but radio stations and sort of how growing up not having good radio, then having good radio, and now it's kind of seems like some of our favorite stations are kind of what would you say, getting they're changing. They're not the stations they.
They are changing, but they're also just like playing music that isn't even considered their format.
Yeah, well, a TLDR was a hard rock, almost metal type station. Played some Eminem the other day, and we both. It's a station we both listen to, even though we don't live near each other right now. And we both thought it was odd. Kind of where we're at. Yeah, we got another round to go. They're not that wore out. They're not that wore out yet.
No, they're not wearing out, but they're drinking gas like.
Yeah, actually, let me hop
crazy.
in mine because I. Oh yeah, hell yeah! I just filled up when it. Gosh, a lot of hours. Before, so yeah, they are. Yeah, well, this model was never known for its in real life.
Well, and I'm not liking I'm not digging how they're pulling. But they did fine, I think, with the mowers and the diesel loading wagons are not doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Good, but...
I think that's where the fuel economy. Yeah, and I notice it getting off, and maybe that's just more of a glitch. We getting off the hit here, I guess you call it. It's like they get high centered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, music streaming, yes, but I mean, I guess this station is owned by the station we're talking about is owned by iHeart, and of course, the iHeart app is probably most popular for like radio stuff. So I don't know if it's exactly that, but we're listening to the terrestrial stream, not like some custom. Yeah, and like, but normally they'd be playing like heavy metal or something, and it's like there's already a other station for that. Actually, where I'm at, there's two stations that play, potentially play Eminem. So why do we need it mixed in? I guess that's the thing. If I want to listen to Eminem, I can go to, again, it's low 10 something or other, and it's like Am's day, Actually, that before we go here, it's like I'm not hearing a lot of, at least, I'm listening on the morning and afternoon drives, so maybe that isn't the right time to be listening. I don't hear a lot of new stuff. And heck, I'm thinking it's like they've even kind of quit playing like a Greta Van Fleet, which is newer stuff.
That's because they haven't put out. Well, They haven't
Yeah,
really
but they're
put
not.
out a new
But I
album
mean, they're
lately.
not even. They don't even have their first stuff or the stuff that they were playing there for a long
Yeah,
time,
but
even into the rotation.
they don't really do that so much anymore. I mean, they do a little bit, but really anymore, it's like they have the top 20 or 40 songs, and then they just beat them to
Well,
death
I know, and
into
that's
the
kind of
ground.
why I don't listen to. I listen for Willie B and
Yep,
talking, and
exactly.
especially in the summers when it gets around rock and roll car show time or racing stuff. Of course, that has Saturday show, which I will occasionally catch if we're get out in the car and we're out and about. That on, yeah.
Oh,
I'm really only listening it for Willie
so
B.
speaking of that, I don't know if you listened this week or not, but um, he was talking about how Motor Trend and I think it's Discovery who owns them. He was saying that they're going through financial problems, and they
Yeah,
cut a bunch of shows down to just 7 on Motor Trend, and his is still going. But he was talking about how, like, I think it was he was saying the All Girls Garage. They were still in the middle of their shoot, and they were walking in one day.
shut them
You
down.
finish that day, and then the next day they walk in and they get told that they're not doing it
Well,
anymore. Right in the middle of it.
and I remember watching that when it was new, new and good concept for a show. I guess I kind of liked it, but then also I don't know if you want to say kind of grew out of those shows because it's like some of it became a little unrelatable because they were just like builds that nobody could afford, and then like they quit doing like the basic repair stuff or basic that average people tackle. But here's the thing: YouTube um has just regular YouTubers, people like you and me, have filled that void of like real world projects. Have the junkers like the well, that's what I'm saying. We were living different and all that, you know, the three of us, or even if Jeff was around, the four of us could have come up with a YouTube. We'd have to go all in on it, but I mean, we could have had our own thing. But I mean, there's people that do essentially what we used to do growing up.
Yeah.
That the whole Dukes of Harlan thing, Um,
Mm,
uh, they've made a YouTube career, and it's just way more entertaining. So my eyeballs are watching that stuff and supporting it with ad views, that likes and that, rather than flipping to even like Motor Trend streaming stuff to watch, All Girls Garage or like Willie B's Two Guys Garage. Well, he's on Two Guys Garage. Um,
yep.
and that because I guess I kind of like the a little bit more homegrown, real like, oh, whoops, I broke that bolt. You see that kind of stuff where you don't see that on those shows. I mean, they're always the bolts always come out. Where you watch some
Okay.
YouTuber
Yeah.
and he'll devote 10 minutes to showing his struggles on taking out whoop whoop that one bolt there. Kind of deal. So and making it entertaining. But yeah. So, Ronnie's got it. Streaming's just changed the game, just like everything else. But hell, look at us. I mean, we're internet nobodies, and got a couple people watching.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's time to.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the
yeah.
on that note.
Too bad, Ronnie. I mean, you just got to get in. I forget what time zone you're in, but we start a bit.
Well, he's in Texas, so it would be
Oh,
same
Central.
time as
Okay.
yeah, same time as me.
Well, no, we generally start up sometime around 9, then sometime around 9 or a little before, I guess. Yeah, TikTok. Well, TikTok's a different animal. That's like Vine reimagined, and it's short form is very different than like the more long form stuff. I don't, and I'm not on TikTok. I won't be on TikTok
Yep, same here.
because it's ByteDance is a Chinese company. I don't care about the regulations and that shit. I don't trust it. I don't trust the app. I don't trust just like, I mean, I know you have a Snapchat, but that, like Snapchat, I don't truly truly trust. Probably trust it more than the TikTok app, but it. Um, but who can you trust these days? Big big
Yeah.
tech, I
Well,
guess.
you
Anyway,
can't even trust.
yeah. I mean, you can't trust YouTube either. I mean, like I said, been on the platform so long. I have a love hate relationship with YouTube. Can't quite bite the hand that feeds, but it's also trust them too far either. I'm there, so. But anyway, I TikTok's just a more of a time killer kind of thing. Where YouTube, I go to that. I mean, I don't have TV. I haven't had it for years and years now, and I just watch pretty much independent creators, or if for original content, and sometimes we'll uh, some TV shows, and things are on there, old stuff, but like old commercials and that stuff, or YouTube poops and things like that, music videos. You don't, and I don't even really use. I got. So I gave into that a little while ago, um, and then of course got Peacock for Supercross, but that'll get canceled when that's over.
Let's see, you do it for Supercross, but I watch everything Supercross on Hulu, and then when it comes to motocross, then that's when I pick up that
Okay.
streaming
Well,
service.
here's the thing: we just kids and things, trying to catch the races live just didn't work, and
Yeah, but I I don't, I don't. You can
well, I
record
know,
them
but
on
we
Hulu.
were even having a
You can
hard.
record them, so I never watch them live anymore
Well, the
because
thing is we
I
even
got
had a
tired
hard.
of like being up till midnight.
Well, that's the thing. We had a hard time watching them even afterwards too, just because the motos are long, or we'd be tired. Just, we might this.
I
I would
enjoyed
just
it
keep.
last year. Plus I want to watch the Olympics, and I actually like to watch. I don't watch the whole thing, but I'll watch the Tour de France, and there's other marathons and stuff that I watch,
Well, I
and
could care
track and
less about
field. And
summer, but like Winter Olympics, I generally like watch.
I
Good.
last time I watched the winter ones, like there's some interesting things, but not every event.
Well, no,
But
not every
but
event.
uh,
I usually
but that's the same with summer. I don't watch every event either. But I do watch. I like to watch some of them. So
But yeah, other than that, I don't. And I, never have subscribed to Netflix. Never have subscribed. Won't subscribe to Disney Plus for a reason. And again, kind of gave into the Hulu. I've had Discovery Plus often. I guess that might be the only traditional TV uh, I will catch. Discovery Plus is watch uh, next day, watch Gold Rush, and then I guess we watch Myth because the kid, well, especially Tucker, he now Trip can kind of watch. Tucker really likes it, and I always like it. well, and also because Adam Savage has his own YouTube. Occasionally, when he has builds and stuff, watch that. So it's like he knows who it is. Kind of like watching more. But
Yeah.
but I could live without. Well, and Katie watches actual like history type shows stuff. But I could take her leave. Recovery. Hulu's nice because I watch King of the Hill on that without having to get my DVDs out, and a few of those other adult animated shows, and then some of the older shows occasionally. Outside of that, the other free apps is where pretty much go for movies. I guess we have Prime Video, but that's because we always had Prime because we like the free shipping and the where we're at and get overnight shipping a lot on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Again, like that cable I gave you, that headphone cable was like $bucks or whatever. You know, when we got done talking about that, I went to Amazon, click, and it was on my front door at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was, when were we talking about that? It was well, it was not this late, but you know, it was in the evening, and I ordered it, and it was in there. I had it in the morning. I didn't need it in the morning that quickly, but it was free. You know, well, free with Prime. But I've done that so much that it's more than paid for.
Yeah.
Again, we do it with kind of, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with like Amazon. It's spot too. Just like I said, I can't beat the convenience. I hate to say it. They 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 hacked that system pretty much.
Yeah.
I use eBay. I use others too. Just gonna be something random, and I don't care brand or whatever. That's where I get it. You.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ronnie got a little extra. Got some bonus content. So.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna shut her down here, and then we'll
Yep,
catch you later. Thanks
so
for
am I.
watching, Ronnie. You got to get in here earlier on these Friday nights if you want to get in the conversation. But um, anyway, we'll catch you later. All right. I'm